5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, I'm Michael Lund, a semi-retired professor of English at Longwood University, an institution of higher education in Virginia. You are in the military, or a veteran, or a family member of one of those. And we're here together virtually to participate in a 5-week online writing seminar. This is part of an offering by the Department of English and Modern Languages at Longwood called Home and Abroad. It's also coordinated with Military Experience in the Arts, a nonprofit, volunteer-run organization whose primary mission is to work with veterans and family members to publish creative prose, poetry, and artwork. I'm in Farmville, Virginia, but you could be anywhere in the world. Our goal is to tell stories and learn how to tell stories better. I'm going to start to kind of introduce the whole project with a story of my own, mostly true. Some years ago, I was asked to be one of the speakers at a series of writing workshops during the International Route 66 Mother Road Festival in Springfield, Illinois. I was ready to do so, having taught composition for more than 30 years, and having written for a variety of media in different phases of my professional career. Having had books and essays published, I was eager to do this. My only question was exactly where would this speaking take place? This was, you see, a street festival on the grounds of the old state capitol and the neighboring streets, and we're spread out over a number of blocks. So I wanted to know whether I was going to be inside a sort of contained facility, an auditorium, where the audience would be large and I would really want to have my words prepared. Or is it going to be sort of informal, a group, and I would just sort of talk about what I had to say. But I could never get an answer about exactly where this presentation was going to occur. Even 10 minutes before I was supposed to speak, I was sitting at my little booth when one of the staff came up and said, "Come with me." So I carried my papers and a bottle of water and a few of my books about Route 66 to, it turned out, a kind of open patio between two buildings off the square of the state capitol. There were very nice big loudspeakers, and there was a conference table with a lectern, so that was comfortable. The only real problem, this is Illinois, this is the edge of the prairie, was the wind slicing across the Capitol Square, and between these two buildings, it was strong. So I was sort of holding down my papers and making sure my water bottle wouldn't roll off when a person approached me from the back of this outdoor area. I didn't really look at him closely. You know how when you're concentrating on things right in front of you, you just sort of see a vague shape. But I recognized this person was coming up to me. So I just glanced up at him, and I did notice he was, I would say, casually dressed. But I'm a sort of polite person, almost a Southerner, and so I looked up and asked him, could I do something for him? And he looked at me and said, "Bubba, Bubba, Bubba, Bubba." Now, that didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So again, afraid that I had been concentrating too much on my papers and what I was doing, I looked at him and said, "Excuse me?" And this time I did actually hear what he said. He said, "Do you smell the cotton candy?" Not "Bubba, Bubba, Bubba, Bubba." Well, this was a street fair. I knew there were hot dog vendors and soft drink machines going about. I didn't know whether it was cotton candy, and I'm often very literal-minded, so I sniffed the air. Maybe there was cotton candy. But at the same time I was doing that, I looked more closely at this man. He had one of those supersized soft drink cups, and he was holding it, and I could see, right next to it, his shirt really wasn't buttoned quite the way it should be, and I looked up at his hair, and even though styles are always varied, it was, well, kind of a mess. So, do I smell the cotton candy? I didn't, and so I said no. And at that time, I looked more closely into his supersized soft drink cup, and I realized it was full of cigarette butts. I realized he had been sort of scouring the street for cigarette butts. When he started to speak again, I realized why I hadn't understood him when he said, "Do you smell the cotton candy?" He had no teeth. And so it just came out, bubba, bubba, bubba. So, okay, here I am in my conversation, which is supposed to precede this very fine presentation about writing, with a man who I guess is homeless. So I said, "No, I don't smell the cotton candy." And he just leaned in closer and he said, "When you do, you'll know it's time." Okay, what have I got here? I've got someone, telling me about the end of the world. He's got a kind of formula, and this is what you want when you have someone who's writing. You want them to know what formulas to use in conveying information. And what he had was the warning, the sign that terrible things are coming. It's an omen of foreshadowing. If you smell the cotton candy, you'll know it's time. The second thing, though, I say when someone's trying to write is you have to have content that matches the form. Cotton candy, end of the world, it didn't make any sense. So, despite his urgency about what I think he thought was imminent widespread catastrophe, I had nothing to say. In fact, I have since realized it would be good for all of us to know on the eve of imminent widespread catastrophe, which we don't want to have, what to say. We want to know what words of healing or of concern, what words of alarm or consolation, what words of avoidance or recovery we should offer. And what I'm particularly thinking about in our time, at least in my lifetime, is the closest we've come to imminent widespread catastrophe in this country, and that's September 11th, 2001. We were not ready. We didn't know what to say, and in many ways, it seems to me, we've been trying to figure out what to say ever since. Now, what kind of people ought to have some wisdom, potentially, about that kind of event? Well, I honestly feel you, members of the military, veterans, and family members, have had experiences that border on or contemplate widespread imminent disaster. And I'm pretty sure you're not toothless. You have things to say. So, I'm going to ask you to do some reading for your first assignment. You're going to start with an essay by Joe Miller called "Fighting the Battle for Identity, One Tattoo at a Time." And I'll send you this link. Now, for some, getting a tattoo is not good. It's scarring the body. It's cutting the natural surface to permanently change appearance, if not identity. But Joe Miller, a veteran, describes it as an effort to inscribe his experience into his very being, to incorporate the dehumanizing and destructive nature of war into his identity so that he can both speak the truth and show the truth. I'm going to ask you to do the same, although I'm going to modify the idea of scarring. It's true, many view writing as a torturous and painful process, like getting a tattoo. And it is sometimes soul-racking, spirit-wrenching. However, this is a view prevalent in Western society in the last couple of centuries, not a universal representation of writers in other countries or in other periods. The stereotype of the self-lacerating author has been promoted by those who champion themselves as rebels, individuals who dare to go against the status quo, agents of change who inevitably face rejection or worse from society. But that tradition ignores the many responsible men and women who have and do write, publish, and work to promote personal growth and social order. They're sometimes accused of writing propaganda, and that can be accurate, but not always. When we go back through history to writers like Homer and Shakespeare and Dickens, they're making valuable contributions to the understanding of the human condition. So, for this seminar, I encourage you to consider yourself as strong voices putting into memorable words what you have been through that can help others who may have faced similar experiences or those who may encounter such experiences. While the process of writing may well force you to come to terms with difficult experiences and decisions from your past, it's helpful to think that what you're doing could help others in the future. One idea that has helped me to write both as a scholar and a novelist is to believe that the work is actually already finished. It's out there somewhere in hyperspace or in the ether, in God's dreams. So I don't have to create it, I have to find it. It's already there. It's take away all the things that are not there and put what's left into an order. So don't think you face a blank page. Think what you have is something that's already there. You're just going to find it and shape it. So, wherever you are, whatever you would like to write about, let's think of it having a shape of 5 stages. That is, there's the calm before the storm, clear skies. There's the rising signs of storm, wind and clouds. 3, the heart of the storm itself, rain, thunder, lightning. 4, the passing of the storm, the winds abate, the clouds move on. And 5, the calm after the storm. So what I'd like you to do this first week is write at least 5 pages, more or less, whatever you can do. Don't worry about grammar or form, just get the words down on paper. At the end of the seminar, I hope you'll have something about 15 to 25 pages in length. And another bit of advice, start wherever you can with this story. You don't have to start at the beginning, you don't have to start at the end. Wherever the words seem to come out of you and get down on paper or in the computer, write that. Later, we can shift things around. One of the big, I think, myths about writing is that it has to be perfect the first time. We're just going to get it out there and then begin to shape it. If things go well and you're happy with what you're doing, we'll share with what we've written so far electronically and talk among ourselves about what we like, give advice to each other. But that's only if you have your permission. If you're not confident enough yet or don't want to feel that others are going to look too closely, that's okay. You will have to send it to me and I'll have to respond. But the idea is with a workshop, we'll begin to share more and more and each of us can help each other. There are no requirements for this program. If you don't have something for next week, well, you're not dropped out, you're still in here. I'm figuring you came to this because you want to do it and no carrots or sticks from me are necessary. So, next week, we'll begin the dialogue about how to expand, revise, and polish whatever you've written. I'm putting some essential material online for you and sending via email the links where it can be found. And any point during the week, if you're struggling or unsure, don't hesitate to email me. It's also possible to talk on the phone if that will help. The important thing is to know that you have joined this effort because you do have something to say. I want to hear what that is, and I believe others will too. Oh, what is happiness? Oh dear. I've got people I grew up with that I've known for over 60 years. And I know who they are and I value them and they make me happy.